Hey, today I'm reading to you guys Unequal Childhood, Class, Race, and Family Life by Annette Lareau. Laughing and yelling, a white fourth grader named Garrett Tellinger splashes around in the swimming pool in the backyard of his four-bedroom home in the suburb on late spring afternoon. As on most evening, after a quick dinner, his father drive him to soccer practice. This is only one of Garrett's many activities. His brother has a baseball game at a different location. There are evenings when the boy's parents relax, sipping a glass of wine. Tonight is not one of them. As they rush to change out of their work clothes and get the children ready for practice, Miss and Mr. Tellinger are harried. Only 10 minutes away, a black fourth grader, Alexander William, is riding home from school open house. His mother is driving their beige, leather upfolded Lexus. It is 9 p.m. on Wednesday evening. Miss William is tired from work and has a long Thursday ahead of her. She will get up at 4:45 a.m. to go out of town on business and will not return before 9 p.m. On Saturday morning, she will chauffeur Alexander to a private piano lesson at 8:15 a.m., which will be followed by a choir rehearsal and then a soccer game. As they ride in the dark, Alexander's mother, in a quiet voice, talks with her son, asking him questions and eliciting his opinion. Discussion between parents and children are a hallmark of middle-class children, like many middle-class parents. Miss William and her husband see themselves as developing Alexander to cultivate his talent in a concerted fashion. Organized activity, established and controlled by mother and father, dominate the life of middle-class children such as Garrett and Alexander. By making certain their children have these and other experience. Middle-class parent, it's funny, I didn't have that experience, but now I'm giving that experience to my kids. Alright, middle-class parent engage in a process of concentrated cultivation. From this, a robust sense of entitlement take root in the children. This sense of entitlement play as an especially important role in institutional setting, where middle-class children learn to question adults and address them as relative equal. Only 20 minutes away, in a blue-collar neighborhood and slightly farther away in public housing project, childhood looked different. Mr. Yanelli, white working-class father, picked up his son, little Billy, a fourth grader, from an after-school program. They come home and Mr. Yanelli drinks a beer while little Billy first watches television, then rides his bike and plays in the streets. Other night he and his dad sit on the sidewalk outside their house and play cards. At about 5:30 p.m., Billy's mother get home from her job as a house cleaner. She fixed dinner and the entire family sit down to eat together. Extended family are a prominent part of their lives. Miss Yanelli touched base with her entire family every day by phone. Many nights, little Billy, uncle stops by, sometimes bringing little Billy youngest cousin. In the spring, little Billy plays baseball, the local team, unlike for Garrett and Alexander, who have at least 4 activities a week. For little Billy, baseball is his only organized activity outside of school during the entire year. Down the road, a white working-class girl, Wendy Driver, also spent the evening with her female cousin as they watch a video and eat popcorn crowded together on the living room floor. Farther away, a black fourth grade boy, Harold McAllister, play outside on a summer evening in the public housing project in which he lives. His 2 male cousins are there that night, and they often are, after an afternoon spent unsuccessfully searching for a ball so they could play basketball. The boys had resorted to watching sport on television. Now they head outdoors for a twilight water balcony flight. Harold tries to get his neighbor, Miss Latifa, wet. People sit in a white plastic lawn chair outside the row of apartments. Music and television route waft through the open windows and doors. The adult in the life of Billy, Wendy, and Harold want the best of them for them. Formidable economic constraints make it a major life task for his parents to put food on the table and arrange for housing, negotiate unsafe neighborhood, take children to the doctor, often waiting for city buses that do not come, clean children clothes and get children to bed and have them ready for school the next morning. But unlike middle-class parents, these adults do not consider the concerned development of children, particularly through organized leisure activity, an essential aspect of good parenting. Unlike the Tallinger and Williams, this mother and father do not focus on concentrated cultivation. For them, the crucial responsibility of parenthood do not lie on eliciting their children's feeling, opinion, and thought. Rather, they see a clear boundary between adult and children. Parents tend to use directive. They tell their children what to do rather than persuading them with reasoning. Unlike their middle-class counterpart, who have a steady diet of adult organized activity, the working class and poor children have more control over the character of their leisure activity. Most children are free to go out and play with friends and relatives who typically live close by. Their parents and guardians facilitate the accomplishment of natural growth. Yet, these children and their parents interact with central institutions in the society, such as school, which firmly decisively promotes strategy of concerted cultivation in child rearing. For working class and poor family, the cultural logic of child rearing at home is out of sync with the standard of institutions. As a result, while children whose parents adopt strategy of concerted cultivation appear to gain a sense of entitlement. Children such as Billy Yanelli, Wendy Driver, and Harold McAllister appear to gain an emerging sense of distance, distraught, and constraint in their institutional experience. America may be the land of opportunity, but it's also the land of inequality. Ooh, strong word. This historical moment, middle-class parents tend to adopt a cultural logic of child rearing that stress the concerned cultivation of children. Working class and poor parents, by contrast, tend to undertake the accomplishment of natural growth. In the accomplishment of natural growth, children experience long stretch of leisure time, child-initiated play, clear boundary between adult and children, and daily interactions with kin. Working class and poor children, despite tremendous economic strain, often have more childlike lives with autonomy from adult and control over their extended leisure time. Although middle-class children miss out on kin relationship and leisure time, they appear to at least potentially gain important institutional advantage. From the experience of concentrated cultivation, they acquire skills that could be valuable in the future when they enter the world of work. Middle-class white and black children in my study did exhibit some key difference. Yet the biggest gap were not within social class, but as a show across them. It is this class difference and how they are inculcated in family life and children rearing that shape the way children view themselves in relation to the rest of the world. Cultural repertoire. Professionals who work with children, such as teacher, doctor, and counselor, generally agree about how children should be raised. Of course, from time to time, they may disagree on the way standards should be enacted for individual child or family. For example, teacher may disagree about whether or not parents should stop or correct a child who mispronounce a word while reading. Counselor may disagree over whether a mother is being too protective of her child. Still, there is a little dispute among professionals on the board principle from promoting educational development in children through proper parenting. The standards include the importance of talking with children, developing their educational interest, and playing an active role in their schooling. Similarly, parenting guidelines typically stress the importance of reasoning with children and teaching them to solve problems through negotiation rather than with physical force. Because these guidelines are so generally accepted and because they focus on set of practice concerning how parents should raise children, they form a dominant set of cultural repertoire about how children should be raised. I agree to that. That's why I talk to Sophia all the time. And I love communicating with her and discussing and getting her opinion because she's a human being. She's a person. She's entitled to her opinion and her view. That's how I see my daughter. Anyway, going back, this widespread argument of more professional about the broad principle for child rearing permeate our society. A small number of experts thus potentially shape the behavior of a large number of parents. Professionals' advice regarding the best way to raise children has changed regularly over the past 2 centuries, from strong opinion about the merit of bottle feeding, being stern with children, and utilizing physical punishment, which dire warning of problematic outcomes should parents indulge children. There have been shifts to equally strongly worded recommendation about the benefit of breastfeeding, displaying emotional warmth toward children, and using reasoning and negotiating as mechanism of parental control. Middle-class parents appear to shift their behavior in a variety of spheres more rapidly and more thoroughly than they do working class or poor parents. As professionals have shifted their recommendation from bottle feeding to breastfeeding, from stern approach to warmth and empathy, and from spanking to timeout, it is middle-class parents who have responded most promptly. Moreover, in recent decades, middle-class children in the United States have had to face the prospect of declining fortune, worried about how their children will get ahead. Middle-class parents are increasingly determined to make sure that their children are not excluded from any opportunity that might eventually contribute to their advancement. Middle-class parents who comply with current professional standards and engage in a pattern of concentrated cultivation deliberately try to simulate their children's development and foster their cognitive and social skills. The commitment among working class and poor families to provide comfort, food, shelter, and other basic support require ongoing effort. Given economic challenge and the formidable demand of child rearing, they stop short of the deliberate cultivation of children and their leisure activity that occur in middle-class families. For working class and poor families, sustaining children's natural growth is viewed as an accomplishment. What is an outcome of different philosophy and approach to child rearing? Quite simply, they appear to lead the transmission of differential advantage to children. In this study, there was quite a bit more talking in middle-class homes than in working class and poor homes, leading to the development of greater verbal agility, larger vocabulary, more confident with authority figure, and more familiar with abstract concepts. Importantly, children also develop skill difference in interacting with authority figure in institution and at home. Middle-class children such as Grant Tyler and Alexander William learn as young boys to shake the hand of adult and look them in the eye, which is important. In study of job interview, investigator found that potential employees have less than 1 minute to make a good impression. Researchers stress the importance of eye contact, firm shake hand, displaying comfort with bosses during the interview. In poor family like Harold McAllister, however, this is so true. Family members usually do not look each other in the eye when conversing. In addition, as Aliyah Anderson point out, they live in a neighborhood where it can be dangerous to look people in the eye too. The type of social competence transmitted in the McAllister family are valuable, but they are potentially less valuable in employment interview, for example, than those learned by Garrett Taylor and Alexander William. The white and black middle-class children in this study also exhibited an emergent version of the sense of entitlement characteristic of the middle class. They acted as tough. They had a right to pursue their own individual preference and to actively manage interaction as in institutional setting. They appeared comfortable in this setting. They were open to sharing information and asking for attention. Although some children were more outgoing than others, it was a common practice among middle-class children to shift interaction to suit their preference. Alexander William knew how to get the doctor to listen to his concern about the bump under his arm from his new deodorant. His mother explicitly trained and encouraged him to speak up with the doctor. Similarly, a black middle-class girl, Stacy Marshall, was taught by her mother to expect a gymnastic teacher to accommodate her individual learning style. Thus, middle-class children were trained in the rules of the game that govern interaction with institution representative. They were not conversant in other important social skills. However, such organizing their time for hours on end during weekend and summers, spending long period of time away from adult, or hanging out with adult in non-obtrusive, subordinate fashion, middle-class children also learned by imitating and direct training how to make the rule work in their favor. That's so true. Here, the enormous stress on reasoning and negotiating in the home also has a potential advantage for future institutional negotiation. Additionally, those in authority responded positively to such interaction. Even in fourth grade, middle-class children appeared to be acting on their own behalf to gain advantage. They made special requests of teacher and doctor to adjust procedure to accommodate their desire. The working class and poor children, by contrast, showed an emerging sense of constraint in the interaction in institutional setting. They were less likely to try to customize interaction to suit their own preference. Like their parents, the children accepted the action of person in authority, although at the time they also commonly resisted them. Working class and poor parents sometimes were not as aware of the children's school situation as when their children were not doing homework. Other times they dismissed the school rule as unreasonable. For example, when the driver mother told her to push a boy who was pestering her in class. Billy Yelly parents were proud of him when he beat up another boy on the playground. Even though Billy was then suspended from school, parents also had trouble getting the school to respond to their concern. When Mr. Yelly complained that she hated the school, she gave her son a lesson in powerlessness and frustration in the face of an important situation. Middle-class children such as Stacy Marshall learned to make demand on professional, and when they succeeded in making the rules work in their favor, they augmented their cultural capital. Skills individuals inherit that can then be translated into different form of value as they move through various institutions. For the future, when working class and poor children confronted institution, however, they generally were unable to make the rule work in their favor, nor did they obtain capital for adulthood. Because of this pattern of legitimization, children raised according to the logic of concentrated cultivation can gain advantage in the form of an emerging sense of entitlement, while children raised according to the logic of natural growth tend to develop an emerging sense of constraint. Social stratification and individualism. Public disclosure in America typically present the life accomplishment of a person as the result of her or his individual quality. Songs like "I Did It My Way," memoir television show, and magazine articles celebrate the individual. Typically, individual outcomes are connected to individual effort and talent, such as being a type A personality, being a hard worker, or showing leadership. This cultural belief provides the framework for America's view of inequality. Indeed, Americans are much more comfortable recognizing the power of individual initiative than recognizing the power of social classes. Studies show that Americans generally believe that the responsibility for their accomplishment rests on their individual effort. Less than 1/5 see race, gender, religion, or class very important for getting ahead in life. Compared to European individuals, in the United States are much more likely to believe they can improve their standard of living. Put differently, Americans believe in the American dream. The American dream that we're all raised on a simple but powerful one. If you work hard and play by the rule, you should be given a chance to go as far as God-given ability will take you. This American ideology that each individual is responsible for his or her own life outcome is the expressed belief of the vast majority of Americans, rich and poor. That's impressive. Yet, there is no question that society is stratified. Highly valued resources such as the possession of wealth, having an interesting, well-paying and complex job, having good education and owning a home are not evenly distributed throughout the society. Moreover, these resources are transferred across generations. One of the best predictor of whether a child will one day graduate from college is whether his or her parents are college graduate. Of course, relations of this sort are not absolute. Perhaps 2/3 of the member of society ultimately reproduce their parent level of education attainment, while about one-third take a different path. Still, there is no question that we live in a society characterized by considerable gap in resource, or put different, by substantial inequality, as I explained. By the way, I think being expert is to do well in life and to study something and to be the best of the best at it. I don't think education is so important nowadays. I mean, in the future, it looks like we're moving toward online education, and we are moving forward with learning more and more. And let me tell you, myself, I support education, and I support getting a degree. I think it's important because you get exposure to many courses and other things that in your field. And getting a degree doesn't necessarily give you the tools or the knowledge that you need to get your first job, but it will shape you. It will shape your life to who you have to be a good citizen, and also to communicate with others. And as you learn how to communicate with other students, you learn other ideas. You study other subjects. It is important nowadays, but it's not necessary. That's my point. You don't have to have it to be successful. And as a good example is my amazing brother. He's making good living, and he didn't need it, but he's an expert. He's the best programmer I ever known. He's fast, and he wouldn't even like it when I say he's the best, but he's great. He is talented. I mean, anyone who work with him, they're lucky to have him. Yeah, he doesn't like it when I praise him or I say, hey, yeah, kick ass, he's the best. Like, I'm normal. He's not. He's amazing. Anyway, and he's successful. He's living the American dream, He bought his own house. He got his own right. And he's doing good. Anyway, as I explained. However, reasonable people have disagree about wealth, family, and different economic positions, share distant life-defining experience. Many insist that there is not a clear, coherent, and sustained experiential pattern. In this book, I demonstrate the experience of a cultural logic of child rearing the end to differ according to family, social class, positions. I see this interweaving practice as coming together in a messy but still recognizable way. In contrast to many, I suggest that social class does have a powerful impact in shaping the daily rhythm of family life. In sum, I see it a mistake to accept carte blanche the view of official and dominant institution, example schools or social service agency, regarding how children should be raised. Indeed, outside of institutional setting, there are benefits and cost to both of this logic of children rearing. For example, concerted cultivation place intense labor demand on a busy pattern, exhaust children, and emphasize the development of individualism at time of the expense of development of the notion of family group. Middle-class children argue with their parents, complain about their parents' incompetence, and dispraise a parent's decision. Another historical moment, a 10-year-old child who gave order to a doctor would have been chastised for engaging in disrespectful and inappropriate behavior. Nor are the actions of children who display an emerging sense of entitlement, intersectionality more valuable or desirable than those of children who display an emerging sense of constraint. In a society less dominated by individualism than the United States, which more of an emphasis on the group, the sense of constraint displayed by working class and poor children may be interpreted as a healthy and appropriate. But in this society, the strategy of the working class and poor family are generally denigrated and seen as unhelpful or even harmful to children's life chance. The benefit that occur to middle-class children can be significant, but they are often invisible to them and to the others. In popular language, middle-class children can be said to have been born on a third base but believe they hit a triple. I'm going to read the last sentence. In society less dominated by individualism than the United States, which more an emphasis on the group, The sense of constraint displayed by working class and poor children may be interpreted as healthy and appropriate, but in this society, the strategy of working class and poor family are generally denigrated and seen as unhelpful or even harmful to children's life chance. The benefit that occur to middle-class children can be significant, but they are often invisible to them and to others. In popular language, middle-class children can be said to have been born or third base by belief they hit a triple. Interesting. Gonna read some notes. Choosing words to describe social group also become a source of worry, especially over the possibility of reinforcing negative stereotype. I found the available terms to describe members of racial and ethnic groups to be problematic in one way or another. The family I visited uninformally described themselves as black, recognizing that some readers have strong view that black should be capitalized. I have followed that convention despite the lack of symmetry, which is the term white. In some, this book alternate among them black, black American, African American, and white, with the understanding that white here referred to the subgroup of non-Hispanic white. You know, that drives me to ask questions. What are you? Are you white, black? What race, what social class do you belong to? Comment, let me know.